So let's now talk to our international affairs expert, Leon Cook, who joins me in the studio now. Leon, thank you so much for coming in. Firstly, I mean, the more you get your head around this story, it is quite astonishing. What did you think when you first heard this?
When I woke up this morning, once again, Trump, he is nothing but, if not a consequential president. Every time he does something, he has spent the best part of last year talking about being the peace president. He was very unhappy not to even be nominated, let alone awarded the Peace Prize. Interestingly, the person that did win the Peace Prize is the person in exile who is the official leader of the opposition, Maria Corina Machado. Yes, there are federal indictments against Maduro and have been for the last 5 years, but by virtue of going in and scooping him up and his wife, he has broke the UN Charter. This is against international humanitarian law. And consequently, I think the statement you've just seen from Keir Starmer, what could he possibly say? He has to keep Trump on side vis-a-vis Ukraine. There's been no statement also from Merz and or from Macron, because they can't cut across him. They need him to be on side vis-a-vis NATO. At the same time, if I was sitting in Beijing and in Moscow right now, I actually might think this will give us unilateral right to do whatever we want.
Well, that's the problem we have here, isn't it? Obviously, we know Russia and China are allies with Venezuela, and this gives them carte blanche to behave how they want as far as international law, not worth the paper it's written on. Trump's proved that.
Well, in the last 10 days, you've obviously had military operations in and around Taiwan by the Chinese. Russia has been flexing its muscles, doesn't seem any closer coming to the negotiating table. Interestingly, the newly appointed chief of staff to Zelensky is very, very friendly with the United States. So there's lots of probably conspiracy theories about why he's done this. Outside of federal indictment, it's not, I don't think, about oil. They only make up about less than 1% of global crude export market. It is about Maduro thumbing his nose at the United States. This has been talked about for months now, but people thought that there would be airstrikes. I don't think people thought that there'll be people landing on the ground and actually picking up the president.
This is a peculiar thing. We've had the rumblings of this for months now, haven't we? We've had the boats off the coast. We've had sort of like, you know, the drug trafficking boats being stopped. We've had a war of words going on. Yeah. But this morning, when we woke up to this, we were surprised, even though Trump has been threatening it.
Well, maybe he thinks that there's a continuation of this, that if elections are allowed to be held again, or that Edmundo Gonzalez, who was thought to have actually won last year's presidential election, can come back, he can say, well, I'm restoring democracy to the world because the person that rightly won that election can now take hold of the keys of power in Caracas. But I have to say, breaking international law doesn't seem like the best possible practice way of doing it, but what does he care about convention?
Well, is that Trump's job? Is that Trump's job to do that?
I don't think there is anyone in the world that can actually put some sort of restraint on him now. You even see Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, you know, putting out tweets from a year ago to say, well, this is the rationale for why we did it. It is actually about drugs. That may be fair and reasonable.
Do you believe that? Do you think it's about drugs?
I think it's probably half of the rationale for why he has done this. I think the more likely is, I want to flex my muscles. I want to start 2026 with everyone being under no uncertain terms that when I want something to happen, it will happen. And there is another thing that is on the horizon, which is at the end of this year, there are the midterm elections. As it currently stands, the Democrats will definitely take hold of the Congress, the House, might even flip the Senate. If that happens, he's a lame duck president. So while the MAGA movement doesn't want an interventionist president, that is exactly what he is and has become, I might add. At the same time, it's what Starmer has been doing in the UK, misdirection. Let's talk about foreign affairs.
Interesting you mentioned Congress. Would Trump have done this without Congress's approval?
Well, I think earlier in the segment or the last show, there was talk that the Armed Services Committee in the Senate weren't informed of this, and therefore ultimately, the executive powers of the president means he can do whatever he wants outside of a full-scale act of war, whereby a vote is conditional. But yes, he has the right to do this.
Leon, just want to bring you some breaking news. We are just getting into the newsroom now. basically Maduro and his wife have both been indicted in New York now. That is breaking news coming out of America just now. We're not quite sure what they've been indicted for, but we do know that in 2020, the US Department indicted them for drug trafficking, narco-terrorism and corruption. Whether that's what these actual indictments are now, we're not sure, but they have been charged in New York. What do you make of that breaking news?
This is going to be a very widely watched and anticipated trial. They certainly won't be returning to Venezuela anytime soon, and by the looks of it, I think that if you look at the state of the US justice system, they will be convicted and they will be actually spending time behind bars. I think that the bigger question is now what happens in terms of local democracy and politics in Venezuela. So do either of those two opposition leaders, who are currently both in exile, not in country, return? At the same time, the regime, and interesting, the federal indictments against Maduro included those members of the government that were also connected to the cartel of the Suns. So they're still there. Does that mean that they're going to have another go at this?
Interesting, isn't it? And we do know that 82% of people in Venezuela live in poverty. The crime rate is terrible. Childhood death is terrible. I mean, it's not a good place to be. However, people were very unhappy with their president. But this can actually swing things around. They're thinking, hold on a minute, what right does a foreign country have, Trump, have to come in and disrupt our country?
Well, I think if anyone was to come here to the United Kingdom, irrespective of what you think of the Prime Minister and or the sitting government, it is within our rights to make sure that we have that vote and choice. Someone on the flip side of that could say, well, we did have a vote and it wasn't respected and the President, Maduro, decided to stay. But I think over the course of the next few hours and or days, how many people appear on the streets and whether there is violence will be very conditional as to what happened next.
Interesting. Leon, thank you very much. Just finally, what happens now? Where do we go from here?
I think there will be further commentary. All of the statements thus far have been very, very neutral in their language. Yeah. So after the press conference at 4 o'clock here local, 11 o'clock in the United States, I think then people will be working out. Jonathan Powell and Keir Starmer will be working out, what on earth do we say now?
Indeed. I wouldn't want to be them, to be honest with you. Leon Cook, thank you very much for joining us today.